The Hundred-Year War was a war fought from 1337 all the way to 1453, fought between England and France over the French throne. Charles IV had just died, leaving behind no successor. This prompted a series of wars between England and France for the throne.
Most historians tend to identify 4 phases of the war. The first phase was from 1337 to 1360.
The second phase lasted from 1360 to 1413, started by Charles V.
The third phase was from 1413 to 1428. By the end of this phase of the war, the English victory was close at hand, but only until Joan the Maid, Joan of Arc, came to the much-needed help of the French after fulfilling a prophecy that a young woman would lead France to victory.
Joan of Arc was born in May 1412 to the parents Jacques d'Arc and Isabelle. She grew up in Dormany, northeast France, as a peasant or maid. But after years of battle, she went from being known as Joan the Maid to being known as a more important maid, the Maid of Orleans. She received this title when she won a battle to take back Orleans from the English in what is now referred to as a key point in the 100 Years' War. Joan of Arc, after becoming a prominent leader that helped others and an important figure in the 100-Year War, ended up leaving a lasting impression.
This legacy consisted of never-wavering faith, bravery and confidence, helping her country take back their land, and much more. Throughout much, if not all of her life, Joan of Arc believed in God, and that she was under God's grace, claiming, "If I am not, God put me there, and if I am, God keep me there." She also believed that God could not and would not be defeated by any human army. These firm beliefs can be identified in her leadership all through her life.
The cementation of these beliefs came when she received visions of her saving France, which it was prophesied a young woman would do. Later on, throughout her battles, and while she was locked up by the English, she received visions of St. Catherine, St. Michael, and St. Margaret, which was later questioned in her trial.
These beliefs and visions led to her asking the rightful leader of France permission to lead the army, claiming she was the woman of the prophecy when she was only 16. She came back the next year after being rejected. Not only did she receive visions from God, but she was also truly devoted to Him as well. A lot of this can be found in the letters that she wrote.
"Let none tomorrow dare to leave the town and go out and fight unless he has first gone to confession, and let them beware lest women of evil fame follow them, because for sin God will permit the loss of this war." Joan of Arc.
This document was written on the eve of a holy day, and she, as a faithful leader, refused to allow her men to slaughter another man on God's day, furthering her undying faith to Him.
I think her legacy is, first of all, a bit of a certain mysticism. Mysticism means it's sort of a term that says, her soul was especially united to God, and she felt, that presence of God in her life. And, she certainly is a unique person in this way. As you sort of mentioned earlier, she was ahead of her time in many ways. She was like a feminist before, that word probably existed. But, the fact that she was a woman and she could have a great amount of leadership, political leadership, religious leadership, even as I understand military leadership as well, certainly shows her as a very exemplary person.
Joan's inspiring dedication to her beliefs should be seen more today. For if a woman like Joan of Arc can stand up for what she wholeheartedly believes in a time when doing so is frowned upon, then us, in this age of very widespread freedom, should be able to do the same. Now, Joan of Arc's faith affected her character, such as how she led and guided others.
For some people, Joan of Arc may not always be described as the brave and confident leader, but clear evidence that shows that this is untrue can be said by individual Griffiths, R.A., when he says, "Joan of Arc's appearance sparked a revival of French spirit, and the tide began to turn against the English."
This shows that Joan of Arc was an important figure to France because it clearly shows her strength at work when she is helping lead her soldiers into battle.
Furthermore, scholar Paul Davis writes, she, Joan of Arc, raised the morale of the troops and they attacked the English redoubts, forcing the English to lift the siege.
Since troops are people, her own soldiers nonetheless, this undoubtedly states that she used her own strength to both assist her soldiers in battle and give them the strength they needed.
More indication that can show that she is a brave and confident leader can be said again by Davis when he writes, "Inspired by Joan, the French took several English strongholds on the Loire."
Like what was previously stated, her own bravery and strength helped, or in this case inspired, the others to fight and take back several English strongholds during the Loire campaign.
Joan's leadership and confidence is essential to her winning the war and taking back parts of France, but not everyone always has this type of confidence or bravery, and maybe, if more of us did, we could all live different, more fulfilling lives. Now, most things that involve effort to people should have rewards, but for all that Joan did, for all her bravery and confidence, some may ask, what was Joan's reward?
Now, while we cannot know for sure, it should be said that her reward was that her confidence and determination in battle ensured the safety of her people.
This can be said when the visionary herself writes to her soldiers, "Courage, do not fall back. A little, the place will be yours. Watch. When you see the wind blow my banner against the bulwark, you shall take it." Joan of Arc.
When Joan says this, it identifies her courage and strength at work because it shows that she is confident enough to tell her soldiers that she is about to lead them to take back the land of the French.
Joan continues to enforce her leadership when she again writes, to her soldiers, "In God's name, we must fight them, for God is sending them to us to punish, and today our noble king shall have the greatest victory he has won in many days. My council has told me that they are ours. Ride bravely, and we shall have good leading."
This established her strength and bravery because her confidence is always strong. In this letter, she is about to help others have confidence in their battle and take their land.
Joan of Arc is an amazing person in general, and while it should be stressed as much as possible how much of a leader she is, it can also be stressed that she was very much human.
Whilst fighting for the French, she was still very young, only about 16 at the time. Because of this, and her personality in general, she was fiercely independent, making it so that she ended up being sassy and back-talking the judge at her own trial.
Whilst fighting the English, Joan was captured and tried. Throughout most, if not all, of her trial, she sassed the judge. This trial is what many people know her for, as well as her ultimate demise, being burned at the stake.
From transcripts of her trial, it can be seen that indeed she was very sassy. While she was being tried, she was asked, "What sign do you give to your king that you came from God?" And although back then there was no such thing as being sassed, nowadays we can see how clearly the judge was being sassed when she responded, "I have always answered you. Go and ask him."
This transcript stands out because it shows how human she is, and therefore it should be said that she was so independent that her leadership came out in the courtroom as well as the battlefield.
After her trial, she was found guilty and put in jail. She, after another trial, was then found innocent, but due to the fact that she wasn't aware, she escaped using men's clothing and was later caught and sentenced to death due to the fact that she was wearing men's clothing.
She was burned at the stake for heresy as a teenager, and more specifically at the age of 19. After, she was pushed to be canonized in the 19th century, and she was officially canonized on the 16th of May, 1920, where over 30,000 people attended the ceremony.
All this and more can thoroughly identify how important Joan of Arc is as a leader and how impactful her legacy is.
Now, even after all this, some people may argue that she did not leave a lasting impression because she is not taught in the United States. However, in France and England, she is taught and celebrated because the 100 Years' War is a big part of their history.
I was in France once. I spent 3 weeks in France. And certainly the figure of Joan of Arc is still very much alive.
She is an unmatched leader shown in her battles and lasting impressions on both France and England. Her unmatched bravery and faith in God truly show her strength.
We should all follow in Joan of Arc's footsteps as we thank God for Joan of Arc.